It's flying high. You know how I feel. Sun in the sky. You know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by. You know how I feel. It's a new dawn. It's a new day. It's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. Yeah, I'm feeling so good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossom on a tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, yeah. And I'm feeling good, yeah. Dragonfly out in the sun, you know what I mean, don't you know? Butterflies all having fun, you know what I mean. Sleep in peace when day is done, that's what I mean. And this old world is a new world and a bold world for me, yeah, yeah. Ooh, for me. Oh, stars when you shine, you know how I feel. The scent of a pine, you know how I feel. 'Cause freedom is mine, and I know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life, and a new way for me. And I'm feeling good. Oh yeah, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling good. Are you feeling good out there? Yeah. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling so free, so good. Life is so new now. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm feeling good.
So I don't know that I believe in reincarnation. I know that I'm going to go on and on and on and on. I'll probably change it up a bit just to keep from being bored. But I often put in my requests, I want to have a nice voice next time and long legs. So put your order in now. You never know when you might need it. Okay, so speaking of the next time, the theme of this month is creativity. I love creativity. I've been bitten by the bug, and I'm having reactions to it. It's good. I had a lot to say. A lot of it came prior to last week. I know when I got the inspiration, the download, the idea, I know where I was. I was still living in my house in Magnolia. And I realized that people were either creative or consumptive. At that time, I started being creative, and I realized that the more I created, the less I consumed, the less I needed stuff. By consumptive, I mean shopping, acquisition of some sort, eating, drink, drugs, trying to fill an inner urge. And we do have an inner urge. We have an inner urge for new and novel. It's in our spiritual DNA. It's what gave the early humans the inspiration to plant seeds. Look, see, we've been gathering these. What if we put them in the ground? What would happen? This novelty, this willingness to experiment, to try new things. It's in us. It's what allows us as human beings to be who we are. Now, when we channel that creativity into new ways of life that are healthy, we feel fulfilled. And we have less need to fill up on other stuff. That was going to be my talk. I thought it was great. But it's not. That whole thing about download stuff, you think you know and then you know more. It's not that what you knew before was necessarily wiped away, but you just know more. And I was driving last week, and I got a download so powerful that I had to record it in my phone. And the first thing that I got was that my former assumptions about creativity were true, but only true to a degree. Because in that assumption that we could be creative or not creative was the assumption that we could turn creativity off. We can't. You cannot turn creativity off. Creativity is not an option that you sign up for or you don't have. To say I am not creative is a lie, because you're creating all the time. We are just creating unconsciously and in an unskilled way so that we create the same old, same old, same old. Creativity is a mandate from the universe, God, Spirit, whatever you want to call it, Allah, Allah. It is a mandate. Ernest Holmes said it this way: One who wishes to practice metaphysics, who wants to practice metaphysics? Thank you. I mean, you're here. Either that or you're here to celebrate somebody else. Well, just like it anyway. Must first, last, and all the time realize that he himself is a center of divine activity, and must know that whatever is true of God in the manifest universe is true in her own life. So if it's true of God in the big, it's true of us in this experience, this inner experience. We are creative because the universe is creative. How many of you have seen the universe is creative? I mean, just look around. It's in our spiritual DNA, just like intelligence, love, imagination, strength, power, and a deep memory of our spiritual essence. When I work with people now, I used to go through all of the things, and I did a prayer. I used to do a lot of things. Now I have a new technique, which is remember who you were before. Well, we'll fix that. Can you still see me? Yes. All that counts is we could be in the dark. I'm still talking to you. I want you to get this, because if you guys get this lesson, there will not be enough room in this space for the people that will want the life you're living. This is the truth. We have a spiritual essence and a memory of that essence, and when I work with people, I try to get them to go back to that essence and live from there instead of all the mistaken ideas that they accepted along the way. We pick up lousy ideas like a couch picks up lint. And my dog picks up old seeds from running in the field. We pick up stuff, but it's not the essence of who we are, and we do remember that if we listen. We also have an internal longing to live large and the will to live large. Will. Now, don't mistake when I say live large. Don't get crazy about that like a bunch of stuff. Living large to me means having what you need and what you want. It means that your physical needs are supported, that you have the food, water, warmth, and rest that you need. Living large means that you have a sense of security. You know you're safe. You're not worried about the future. The whole world right now needs that. Living large means that you have your emotional needs taken care of, that you have someone to be intimate with, and you have friends, you have support, you know people have your back. Living large means that your esteem needs are being fulfilled, that you accomplish what you set out to accomplish and you are validated for that. Living large means that you have self-actualization needs fulfilled. That you know that you're fulfilling your full potential and that there's more potential in you. Now, this includes not only being creative, but especially means that you are contributing to something greater than yourself. Contribution is what makes a person feel like they finally arrived, and everything leads up to that. And if you really paid attention, you know I'm talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That's living large. When we fulfill this need, fill this need, fill this need, fill this need, fill this need, contribute to something greater than ourselves, which could just be humanity or our family or our friends or our center or whatever. But that we're living out of giving, that is the fulfillment of what it is to be human. That's living large. And we were created to do that. Now, in my car, along with the fact that I had dummied down creation as though it could be a switch, I was just going to tell you to switch it on. Switch it on. Well, God said, get over yourself. Nice idea, but I got a better one. In my car, I got this metaphor, and I realized that the saints and the sages and the savvy people, I'll put myself in the savvy people category. Saints, sages, and savvy people have always used metaphors to explain something that's very hard to explain. I mean, it's hard to explain how this all unfolds and how we can be creative and how we do create. But what came to me is that it's like a delivery from Amazon, and there was this big box, and inside that box was everything that I needed to create the life I wanted, to have my needs fulfilled in that box. And that everyone at birth got that box. And it was filled with intelligence, and it was filled with love, and it was filled with longing to express, longing to be, longing to create. In that box was creativity itself. Everything that I needed was there. And that anyone could overcome their circumstances, because we're born with stuff. Stuff happens. How many of you notice stuff happens? Okay. Stuff happens, but we can overcome that individually and collectively if we just use what's in the box. To build a large life by using our internal capacities, we meet our needs. We are here to create heaven on earth instead of heaven on from that other place. To create a sense of security that I can face whatever I'm going to face because something within me can handle it. I think it was Emerson that said, what is inside of us is greater than anything that's outside of us. But we don't know that. And every time we think outside of us is more powerful than what's in us, that's idolatry. That's having a false God, because a God is what you give your power to. Now, the power is either within you or it's outside of you, and you get to choose. So there may be a question in your mind, or a statement or whatever, because it popped up in me. Sometimes I'm sitting and doing my talk, and I'll actually get the things that are going to go on in people's minds, which is why some people say, that was exactly what I was thinking. Well, you know, this one mind thing, it might be a reality. Anyway, someone might be thinking that my life's not so hot, and I still have some needs. How did I create this? How many of you have ever had that thought? How did I create this? Or how many of you have ever wondered about somebody else and wanted to say to them, how did you create this? How many of you have heard, how did you create this? It can be used as a hammer. There's two ways not to ask that question. I mean, I honestly think the question should be asked. That's also new for me. You know, I feel like I'm Kathianne 2005.0 because I'm constantly being redone and uploaded and upgraded. I am the Tesla of ministers. You know, do my meditations, download. So what I said a year ago may not be true for me. And I can only share what's true for me because truth heals. And if I'm sharing the greatest truth I know at any given moment, it will affect you whether you agree with me or not. Because truth is a reality. There's two ways that we speak to ourselves when we say, how did I create this? And one of them is like a denial of your power. And it's like, well, how did I create this? Well, like, prove it to me. That won't get you anywhere. Or as a whine. How did I create this? Oh, that's powerless. Both of them are powerless. And actually, it's very hard to explain. It's back to that saints and sages and savvy people thing again. They spoke in metaphors. The how is a process, and it's invisible, and it's hard to explain. It's like puberty. Explain that. Or menopause. What the hell? For what freaking purpose? Do you see what I'm saying? But it doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. By the way, all the holy books were created as instruction manuals for putting that box together. And if we don't have the life that we want, it's not that we don't have the ingredients, it's that we've had lousy instructions. When we were young, usually before the age of 5, what I've heard is that the brain and many of our beliefs develop before the age of 5. Now think about what you got before you were 5, except for you. Young people making decisions based on the bad behavior or unskilled behavior or assumptions of others that were based on unskilled behavior and assumptions of others. And the sins were visited upon the children for 7 generations. And it could have been even a small thing, and it was like grabbed onto. I was working with someone last week, and they knew they struggled, and they knew they struggled, and they had this aha that they didn't have to struggle. And then they went back to like this again. And I said, what's going on? You know, what took away your joy? And they said, well, I had this religious upbringing where suffering was good. So suffering, struggle, good. Freedom, happiness, bad. Nobody wakes up and says, oh, I hope I can suffer today. Oh, suffer. No, but if the instruction manual said put it together so you suffer because that's good and God will reward you later, that's how you set up your life. Now, that's just one thing. I was working with another person when they got that at the age of 5 or 6, they decided they were wrong. Something happened and they interpreted it like I'm wrong. Maybe it was even meant to be that way, but it doesn't matter. That was then coded in all of the ways they built their life from that moment on. So what happens if wrong goes on? And I'm not going to point, but you know, I'd say at least 30% of you have wrong going on. And what happens when wrong goes on is that you always have to justify yourself and prove yourself and work harder than anybody else. And then you look out into the world and see how they're wrong. And there's a divide that happens that seems to be a chasm. Let's see, what does that sound like? Congress. Wrong going on. Now, how do we know that we have bad instructions? Because as we put our life together, if we are not basing it on expressing more life and harming no one, including ourselves, we have the wrong instructions. I'm paraphrasing Ernest Holmes. Ernest Holmes said, can you pray for this? Well, someone asked him, can I pray for this? And he said, if it expresses more life and harms no one, including yourself, you can pray for that. When we are living a life in which we express more life and harm no one, including ourselves, we're expressing God's life. You know, what's interesting, though, is we often think of a pie in which if I do good, then somebody else does bad. God doesn't think pie. We have the intelligence of the living God that can live through us. We need to think like God does. My good can contribute to their good. That would be an interesting government, wouldn't it? I should hear a snap, snap on that one. See, it's so divisional, but we've bought into it individually. We're living it socially. It is an absolutely glorious moment when you get how you created the pattern you're suffering from. It's glorious. When you can say, how did I create this? Knowing that you had a creative part, you had a creative part in this co-creation, then you're free, because if you get that you did it, you can undo it. But it has to come from a sense of freedom. It has to be empowering. It's like, oh, I did this. I remember being broke. I think I shared this with the money mastery thing. At least if I didn't share it with them, I shared it with our TAs. There was a time when I had tripled my income and I was still broke. I said, gosh, I'm creative. Goodness, that's a miracle. In a year, I tripled my income and I have no money. Whoa! Look how powerful I am. If I could create no money, I could probably create money. You get it? I had a similar experience in the temple of, the first time I went to Egypt, in the temple of Isis, in the Holy of Holies. I was sitting there in meditation, and I saw something similar to what Quimby saw and others, and he was the first true metaphysician in the United States. And he said he would see somebody, and he would see the beliefs that they were wearing, that they'd acquired through life, and they were old, and they were ragged, and they were stinky, and when they would let those beliefs go like old clothing, they were free and fresh in their essential self, and they were healed in whatever area of their life they needed healing. So I saw myself wearing this big heavy coat of wrong, and in that temple I took it off, and things shifted so dramatically for me. And for everybody around me that thought I was wrong. Easiest divorce I ever had. By the way, the measure of a human being is the way they touch people to live greatly after they're gone. So thank you, Marwan and Emil, for being here. And I salute Mohammed, who was my tour guide on that very first trip in 1984. 1894. I'm not that old yet. 1994. But If I was that old, you'd be impressed. Think about it. Yeah, you'd want my secret. Well, I'm telling you the secret. Listen up. Creativity, I realized last night, should be taught in school. We teach a whole bunch of stuff that will not help people live life. We should teach creativity. And creativity, that thing that was born in us, that aspect of God was taught to all the shamans that I revere and the priests and the high priestesses that would lead religions that did great things, and we're still marveling at what they did and how they did it. It's because they knew how to channel creativity. It took years to acquire that consciousness. And I'd like to do it 3 Sundays. But we stand on their shoulders. They made breakthroughs. We've got to imagine that if they could do it, we could do it. It's not about them. It's not that they're different. We're in speeded up time, and this is the time when the Holy Spirit needs to descend on everybody so that we all own our creative power to not only shift our life, get that over so that we can contribute to the world in such a way that it recreates itself. So, are you willing to be 100% responsible for the rest of your life?
Yes.
Praise God. Then these Sundays are for you. You have an assignment, though. Your assignment is to continually affirm all week. Let's just break the ground that I am creative and I was born that way. And then get Lady Gaga's song and play it all the time. I am created, I was born that way. It's not you're created like I'm special. It's we're all creative, but I'm owning it. We're all creative, but some people don't own it. We're all creative, but people give away their power to others to create the life they're experiencing. No, I'm creative and I own it. So say that. I'm creative. I was born that way. Now I will tell you what will happen. Yeah, butts are going to show up. Yeah, butts will show up. Well, yeah, bet. How many of you know Yeah But? How many of you are good friends with Yeah But? It's okay, don't dismiss it, just write it down. Thank you very much for sharing. Write it down and move on and continue to say, I am creative. Which leads me to the story I want to end with. See, so many of us can have a good idea. You come here, you get an idea, and then you leave it. It stays in the parking lot. You hear that you're supposed to do an affirmation or have an assignment, and you do it, and then it's like Monday morning. I've been there, done that. But as I said once, prayer is all the time. Prayer is a constant thing. It's what we're always doing. It's all of our life is a prayer. So if you want to create something new, it means that initially you're going to have to put some real energy into it. So I did this whole talk, and then I got an email this morning that is the perfect ending to this talk. The perfect ending to this talk. Because it shows exactly how this works. And I hope that you're inspired by it because it inspired me. And what I realized is that I know these tools. I know how to work this. I have had miracles in my life. And sometimes I'm willing to coast and to cope. There is something that I'm facing right now, and I will talk about it when it's totally over, because that's the way I do things. And what I realize is that I'm having people pray for me, and I will sometimes bring it up and sort of know the truth. But after this, I'm going to know the truth. Because I am creative, I was born that way, and I am recreating what I'm experiencing. So let's just hear about somebody that did. Dear Kathianne, I thought you might want to know I'm missing your Money Mastery group because it's already changed my life. I was at the first 2 group sessions, barely making it to the second straight from work. I'm easily recognizable by my mask. Like many attending the group, my husband and I struggle to make ends meet. When you mentioned the possible goal of above struggle, I knew that was the category we fell into. Despite my working 2 jobs and having various independent clients, we still live below the poverty line and rely on food stamps. My mantra that resonated with me is, my good is everything I want and need. I cried every time I tell that to myself. Even typing it out now, it resonates so strongly. I repeated it constantly while, listen to this, I repeated it constantly while at work and commuting. I taught myself to orient it to, and I ought to have it. There's a good for me. And my good is to have everything I want and need, and I ought to have it. I said that everywhere, even grocery shopping. It filled me with hope. And now the money has happened. I skipped last week's class because a client needed overnight emotional support. I thought it was a one-time thing, and I felt I had to jump at the opportunity. Now my income has doubled in the past week and is projected to possibly triple by the end of the month. I earned more in 3 days working for this client than I usually make in 2 weeks working all my other jobs, and yet continued to work all of them. I turned down even more work this weekend to spend quality time with my husband and nurture my soul. I've never before felt like I could choose that and still be okay financially. But my good is everything I want and need. I'm 30. I've been disabled since I was a teenager, homeless for several years, and only managed to start working the last 3. This is the first time we've had income to surge above struggle. After being out of work a few years due to injuries, my husband landed a job and it starts in a couple of weeks. My good is manifesting right before my eyes. I can hardly believe it. We've wanted so badly to raise a family but felt the need to stabilize financially first. Now we have everything we want and need. Thank you. I'm not even sure how this happened, but it did, and I'm not done. She says a P.S. P.S. I actually forgot to mention I also received a $1 an hour unscheduled raise at my main job. This was the Thursday after the first Monday Money Mastery Group. My prayer request had been listening to my heart, and what my heart told me was that what my mantra should be. There's a good for me, and I ought to have it. And it's that everything I want and need, and I ought to have it. That was the day I discovered my mantra. After repeating it and weeping throughout the day, I had a meeting with my boss and was surprised with the news. You can't make this stuff up. She's actually the one that said, you can't make this stuff up. I didn't say that. I just want to say do you see how that happened? That all of her needs, her physical needs of shelter and warmth are being taken care of. She feels more secure because she now knows how she can apply these things forever and ever. Her intimacy needs are being fulfilled because she can share this great news with all of us. Her esteem needs are being fulfilled because she's accomplished something and being validated for it. And in the self-actualization is happening because she is contributing by sharing the story with all of us. Contribution. All of her wants and needs are being supplied by Spirit, and she really ought to have it. Today we're going to honor our prayer practitioners. And one of the things that has happened is that they have gone through a lot and they decided to contribute to all of us. They contribute to us through their prayers, through their consciousness, through the holding space. There's so much that they do that's invisible. They are truly the wind beneath this congregation's wings. We fly because of them. And what's so wonderful about contribution is when you find the right place, it comes back to you, multiplied, pressed down, and running over. As my wonderful Marilyn was saying today, she found her place to serve, and it feels so good. Sometimes you just have to find that niche, and when you find that niche, whether it's praying individually or it's praying for a group or it's being a TA, a teaching assistant in a class, when you find that, you fly, because we were created not to build just for ourselves, but to build a better world. We are a force for good in the world. They are a force for good in our community. I turn this time over to Reverend Abigail.
Thank you, Kathianne. Would all the licensed practitioners and ministers rise and surround this community on the 3 sides, the 2 sides in the back? The professional prayer practitioner is one that has dedicated their life, their time, their energies to helping and serving all of you. I'd like you to look around and look at this powerful group of people. You probably had no idea how many people hold your good in consciousness. They dream about your success. They pray and know your truth. They serve lovingly and devotedly to each and every one of you. Whether they know you or not, their prayers are here with you. And it's their business to uncover God in every situation and to hold the high consciousness of this community. They are our healing arm. They've devoted themselves to God and to the revelation of your highest good. Bev, can I have your assistance up here? So I would like you as a community to honor these practitioners and ministers who are here. And so we're going to do what we call a raise and praise, but I'm going to walk you through it once. So if you're new here, you know what you're doing. What you're going to do is you're going to face the practitioners around you, so face the sides and the backs of the room. And you're going to do these hand movements and repeat after me, but don't do it until I do it first. So Bev will be the hand movements. You will say, I raise you, I praise you in the name of love. We're going to do that 3 times, so please say it with me and let us raise and praise our practitioners and ministers. I raise you, I praise you in the name of love. I raise you, I praise you in the name of love. I raise you, I praise you in the name of love. Thank you. You may be seated. I'd like the practitioners to stay and hold consciousness around the room as we honor our incoming licensed practitioners. I'd like to introduce them to you. Matt Boblet, Cindy Clay, Vicki Draper, Sherry Grasso, Jim Landis, Jeanette Lassiter, Jeff McNeely, Mandy Swee, and Sylvia Wilson. All right, so what we're going to do is we're not going to, please be seated. Thank you, community. They did deserve that. What we're going to do is we're now going to we're going to have them take their vows and we're going to give them their stoles. So I'd request that you keep your applause to the very end of this ceremony. And for those of you who are going to be receiving your stoles, if you could step forward a couple of steps because we're going to need somebody behind you giving you your stole. And I'm going to go around here in front of you. Thank you. All right. And I'd like to invite all of the practitioners in the room to also use this as a rededication of your service to the community. So if you would also commit to these vows along with our newest licensed practitioners. You have chosen today to serve Spirit, Centers for Spiritual Living, and Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, and have answered a sacred calling. Being a licensed practitioner is a sacred obligation. It is a journey of love, dedication, and exploration in all aspects of your being. Do you today promise, to the best of your ability, to uphold your own holy nature in everything you say, do, and everything you are. If so, say, I do. Do you consecrate yourself to the practice and art and the science of affirmative prayer? If so, say, I do.
I do.
Do you promise to conduct yourself with dignity, integrity, and devotion? If so, say, I do.
I do.
Do you promise to serve people regardless of their race, gender, faith, orientation, or station in life? If so, say, I do. Do you promise to devote your time, treasure, and talent, expanding the ministry and consciousness of Center for Spiritual Living Seattle? If so, say, I do.
I do.
And do you plan to expand the conscious expression of your creative expression in life and devote your loving service to God and all of humankind? If so, say, I do.
I do.
May I have our supporters here in giving out our stoles. Thank you, Jane and Ray. Matt Boblet, I now pronounce you a licensed practitioner in our community. Cindy Clay, I now pronounce you a licensed practitioner in our community. Vicki Draper, I now pronounce you a licensed practitioner in our community. Sherry Grasso, I now pronounce you a licensed practitioner in our community. Jim Landis, I now pronounce you a licensed practitioner in our community. Jeanette Lassiter, I now pronounce you a licensed practitioner in our community. Jeff McNeely, I now pronounce you a licensed practitioner in our community. Mandy Swee, I now pronounce you a licensed practitioner in our community. Sylvia Wilson, I now pronounce you a licensed practitioner in our community. And on behalf of the Board of Trustees, and on behalf of all of the practitioners and ministers here, I now charge you to go forth in this world, that all who come in contact with you will be healed by your presence and be inspired by your example. Friends, please help me welcome our newest practitioners.